Welcome to Echoes of Dharma. In the next 60 seconds, I'm going to prove to you that chronic pain isn't actually what you think it is. Here's a test. Think about the last time your back hurt. Where exactly did you feel it? Your lower back? Between your shoulder blades? Now here's the question that changes everything. What were you dealing with emotionally that week? I'm willing to bet money that your back pain coincided with stress, family drama, or work pressure. And that's not a coincidence. Watch this. A woman named Sarah had shoulder pain for 2 years. Tried everything. Doctors, physical therapy, massage. Nothing worked. Then someone asked her one simple question. When did this start? She realized it began exactly when her critical mother moved in. Her shoulders didn't hurt during exercise or teaching. They hurt during arguments with her mom. She was literally carrying the weight of disapproval. The moment she understood this connection, something shifted. The pain didn't vanish overnight, but for the first time in 2 years, she had hope. Because now she knew what was really going on. Your body isn't malfunctioning. It's communicating. And Buddhist masters figured this out 2,500 years ago. They discovered that your liver stores anger. Your chest holds grief. Your throat keeps unspoken words. Your stomach processes not just food, but life experiences. Every symptom is a message. Every ache is your body saying, "Please listen to what I'm trying to tell you." But here's the problem. We've been trained to silence these messages instead of decode them. In the next hour, I'll teach you the ancient language your body speaks. You'll learn 5 principles that transform every pain into wisdom, every symptom into guidance. By the end, you'll never experience discomfort the same way again. Because you'll finally understand what your body has been desperately trying to say. Starting with the shocking truth about where pain really comes from. So where does pain really come from? Let me tell you about David, because his story will completely change how you think about your stomach problems. David had digestive issues for 8 months. Bloating, cramping, nausea. He saw 3 different doctors, tried elimination diets, took expensive probiotics. Nothing helped. Then his wife noticed something strange. "Honey," she said, "you only get sick on Sunday nights." David laughed it off at first, but then he started paying attention. Sure enough, every Sunday around 6 p.m., his stomach would start churning. By bedtime, he'd be miserable. Monday morning? Still queasy. Here's what blew his mind. His stomach wasn't just digesting food. It was trying to digest his absolute dread of Monday mornings at a job that was slowly killing his soul. The moment he understood this, everything changed. Not because his job suddenly became perfect, but because he finally knew what the real problem was. His body wasn't broken. It was brilliant. It was trying to tell him something his mind was too scared to admit. This is what Zen Buddhism calls Buddha nature in all things. It means intelligence isn't just in your brain. It's in every cell, every organ, every system in your body. Your body has its own wisdom, and it's been trying to share that wisdom with you your entire life. But here's what nobody taught us. Symptoms aren't emergencies to silence. They're conversations to have. Think about this for a moment. When your smoke alarm goes off, do you rip the batteries out and call it fixed? Of course not. You look for the fire. But when our body's alarm system goes off, pain, tension, fatigue, what do? We rip out the batteries with painkillers and call ourselves healed. Now, I'm not anti-medication. Sometimes you absolutely need to treat symptoms while you're figuring out the cause. But what if we also asked, what is my body trying to protect me from? What is it trying to tell me? Let me share something that might sound weird, but stick with me. Your body remembers everything. Not just physical injuries, but emotional ones too. It remembers every time you bit your tongue to keep peace. Every time you swallowed your anger to avoid conflict. Every time you said, "I'm fine," when you were falling apart inside. Buddhist teachers call this storing karma in the body. Western science calls it the mind-body connection. Whatever you call it, the truth is the same. Your body keeps score. Here's a simple test you can do right now. I want you to think about someone in your life who really stresses you out. Maybe it's your boss, your mother-in-law, or that neighbor who plays music too loud. Got someone in mind? Now notice what happens in your body when you think about them. Does your jaw clench? Do your shoulders rise? Does your stomach tighten? Does your breathing become shallow? You just experienced your body's intelligence in real time. It's not waiting for that person to actually show up to start protecting you. It's preparing you based on past experience. Your body is literally predicting the future and trying to help you survive it. But here's where it gets really interesting. That same protective response, the clenched jaw, tight shoulders, shallow breathing, that response is meant to be temporary. It's designed to help you deal with immediate danger, then release. The problem is, in our modern world, the danger never goes away. Your stressful job doesn't disappear after 5 minutes. Your difficult relationship doesn't resolve overnight. So your body stays in protection mode, sometimes for months or even years. And that's when protection becomes pain. Sarah's shoulders were protecting her from her mother's criticism by tensing up, ready to defend. David's stomach was protecting him from a soul-crushing job by trying to reject it entirely. Their bodies weren't malfunctioning. They were working overtime to keep them safe. This brings us to the first Zen principle. What you resist persists, but what you understand transforms. When Sarah understood that her shoulders were trying to help her, she could finally work with them instead of against them. She started having different conversations with her mother, setting boundaries, speaking up for herself. As she learned to protect herself emotionally, her shoulders could finally relax their physical guard. When David realized his stomach was reflecting his soul's rejection of his work situation, he could address both levels. He started looking for a new job while also practicing stress reduction techniques. His digestion improved even before he changed jobs, just because he understood what was really happening. But here's the most beautiful part. Once you start listening to your body's language, it doesn't need to scream so loud to get your attention. Think about a friend who feels unheard in your relationship. At first, they might mention something small. If you don't listen, they speak a little louder. If you still don't hear them, they might start yelling. But if you listen and respond to their whispers, they never need to shout. Your body works the same way. That slight tension in your neck might be whispering, "You're taking on too much." If you listen and adjust, it stays a whisper. If you ignore it, it becomes a headache. Ignore the headache, and it might become chronic pain. The good news? Your body is incredibly forgiving. It doesn't hold grudges. The moment you start listening, it starts trusting you again. So how do you start this conversation? It's simpler than you think. Right now, take a slow breath and do a gentle scan of your body. Start at the top of your head and slowly move your attention down. Your forehead. Is it tense or relaxed? Your jaw. Is it clenched or soft? Your neck and shoulders. Are they carrying weight they don't need to carry? Don't try to fix anything yet. Just notice. Just say hello. This is how you begin to rebuild the relationship with your body's wisdom. You might discover that your left hip feels different from your right, that your chest feels tight, that your hands are clenched even though you're just listening to a video. All of this is information. All of this is your body communicating. And here's what most people never realize. Your body isn't just telling you about physical problems. It's giving you information about your relationships, your work, your life choices, your unexpressed emotions. That knot in your stomach might be telling you that your gut feeling about a decision is important. Those tense shoulders might be showing you that you're carrying burdens that aren't yours to carry. That shallow breathing might be revealing that you're not allowing yourself to fully receive life. But there's something even deeper happening here, something that brings us to our next principle. Because your body isn't just storing current stress. It's holding on to emotions you never fully felt, experiences you never fully processed, and truths you never fully expressed. And until you understand how to release what you've been carrying, your body will keep trying to get your attention in louder and louder ways. So the question becomes, what have you been storing that you're finally ready to release? What emotions has your body been holding hostage? And how do you set them free? That's exactly what we're going to explore next, because the second principle will show you how to transform your body from a storage unit of old pain into a flowing river of healing energy. Here's something that's going to sound strange, but I need you to trust me on this. Your liver is angry. Not metaphorically, literally. And if you've been carrying resentment for years, your liver knows it. Let me tell you about Lisa, because her story reveals something shocking about where emotions actually live in your body. Lisa was 34, successful marketing executive, seemed to have it all together. But she'd been dealing with mysterious digestive issues and constant fatigue for 2 years. Every test came back normal. Doctors were baffled. During a meditation retreat, something unexpected happened. The teacher asked everyone to place their hands on their stomach and breathe deeply. Within minutes, Lisa was sobbing uncontrollably. Not sad tears, angry tears, furious tears. I felt this rage just pouring out of my gut, she told me later. And suddenly, I knew exactly what it was about. 5 years earlier, Lisa's business partner had stolen their company's biggest client and started a competing firm. Lisa never confronted him. She never expressed her anger. She just swallowed it. Literally. "I realized I'd been digesting betrayal for 5 years," she said. "My stomach wasn't just processing food. It was trying to process this massive anger I never let myself feel." This is the second Zen principle. What you don't feel, you can't heal. And what you avoid emotionally, your body carries physically. In traditional Chinese medicine, which heavily influences Zen practice, they map emotions to specific organs. The liver stores anger and resentment. The heart holds joy and heartbreak. The lungs carry grief and sadness. The kidneys house fear and anxiety. The stomach processes not just food, but life experiences. Now, I know this might sound mystical, but stick with me. Modern neuroscience is proving what Buddhist masters knew centuries ago. Emotions aren't just mental events. They're full-body experiences that leave physical imprints. Think about the last time you felt deeply embarrassed. Where did you feel it? In your face, right? Your cheeks burned, your face got hot. That's emotion expressing through your body. Or remember the last time you were truly heartbroken. Did you feel it in your chest? Like someone was squeezing your heart? That's not just poetic language. That's your body literally responding to emotional pain. But here's what happens when we don't allow emotions to flow through us naturally. They get stuck. They take up residence in our tissues, our organs, our nervous system. The Buddha taught something profound about this. He said, "Pain is inevitable, but suffering is optional." What he meant was this: we can't avoid difficult emotions. They're part of being human. But we can choose whether to let them flow through us or store them in us. Most of us were never taught how to feel emotions safely. We learn to push them down, distract ourselves, or explode inappropriately. But we were never taught the middle way, how to feel fully without drowning. Let me share what happened to Michael, because his transformation shows exactly how trapped emotions create physical symptoms. Michael had chronic lower back pain for 3 years. He was a gentle guy, never raised his voice, always kept the peace. Everyone saw him as calm and collected, but his back was screaming. During a body awareness session, I asked him to breathe into his lower back and notice what emotions lived there. At first, nothing. Then, slowly, he started to feel something he'd never allowed himself to acknowledge. Rage. Pure, volcanic rage at his ex-wife, who had turned his children against him. Rage at the legal system that had failed him. Rage at feeling powerless and unheard for years. "I never knew I was allowed to be angry," he said, tears streaming down his face. "I thought good guys don't get angry." The Buddhist teaching here is crucial. Emotions aren't good or bad. They're information. Anger tells you when boundaries have been crossed. Sadness shows you what you've lost and how deeply you've loved. Fear points to what matters most to you. But when we judge emotions as bad or wrong, we can't receive their wisdom. We just store them in our bodies, where they create havoc. Here's a simple exercise you can try right now. Think about an emotion you've been avoiding. Maybe anger, sadness, fear, or disappointment. Got it? Now, instead of thinking about why you feel this way, I want you to notice where you feel it in your body. Place your hand on that spot. Breathe into it. Don't try to change it or fix it. Just acknowledge it. You might say something like, "Oh, hello anger. I see you're here in my chest. What do you need me to know?" This isn't weird hippie stuff. This is ancient wisdom meeting modern science. When you acknowledge trapped emotions instead of fighting them, something magical happens. They begin to move. The Zen teaching is beautiful. The bamboo that bends in the storm does not break. When we resist our emotions, we become rigid and brittle. When we learn to bend with them, we develop the flexibility to weather any storm. But here's what most people get wrong about emotional release. It's not about having a dramatic breakdown. It's about allowing emotions to flow at their natural pace. Think of emotions like weather systems. They arise, they peak, they pass through. But only if you don't resist them. When you fight against emotional weather, you create emotional storms. Michael didn't need to scream and throw things to release his anger. He just needed to stop pretending it wasn't there. He started journaling, talking to a therapist, setting boundaries with his ex-wife. As he honored his anger's message, his back began to heal. Lisa didn't need to hunt down her old business partner for revenge. She just needed to stop digesting betrayal. She wrote letters she never sent, talked to friends about what happened, allowed herself to feel the full impact of what she'd experienced. Her digestive issues gradually resolved. Here's something profound that the Buddha discovered. When you stop running from your emotions, they stop chasing you. When you stop fighting your feelings, they stop fighting back. But I want to address something important. Some of you might be thinking, if I start feeling all this stuff, won't I fall apart? Won't I be overwhelmed? The truth is, you're already carrying these emotions. They're already affecting your body, your sleep, your relationships, your health. The only difference is whether you're conscious of them or not. When emotions are unconscious, they control you. When you bring them into awareness, you can work with them skillfully. There's a beautiful Zen story about this. A master was asked by his student, "How do you deal with pain?" The master replied, "I feel it completely. That's why it doesn't stay long." Most people try to feel emotions partially, just enough to function, but not enough to heal. But partial feeling is like partially cleaning a wound. It doesn't heal, it just festers. The Buddhist practice of complete feeling doesn't mean drowning in emotion. It means feeling with awareness, feeling with breath, feeling with compassion for yourself. Here's a practice you can use when difficult emotions arise. First, breathe. Slow, deep breaths that reach your belly. This tells your nervous system it's safe to feel. Second, locate the emotion in your body. Where do you feel it? What does it feel like? Heavy? Tight? Hot? Cold? Third, breathe into that area. Imagine your breath creating space around the emotion, not trying to push it away, but giving it room to be there. Fourth, ask, What do you need me to know? Then listen, not with your thinking mind, but with your body's wisdom. This isn't just spiritual practice. It's practical medicine. Studies show that people who can identify and express emotions have stronger immune systems, better cardiovascular health, and lower rates of depression. Your body wants to heal. Your emotions want to flow. You just have to stop damming the river. But here's where most people get stuck. They try to feel and release years of stored emotion all at once. That's like trying to empty a lake with a teaspoon. It doesn't work, and it's overwhelming. The skillful approach is to work with whatever's ready to be felt today. Maybe it's the frustration from this morning's traffic. Maybe it's the sadness about a relationship that ended. Maybe it's the fear about your health or your future. Start small. Start with today's emotions before diving into decades of buried feelings. And here's something beautiful. As you clear today's emotional weather, older stored emotions naturally begin to surface and release. Your body has its own wisdom about what needs to be felt when. Trust that wisdom. Trust your body's timeline. Trust that healing happens not on your schedule, but on love's schedule. Because that brings us to our next principle, and this one might surprise you. The most powerful healing force isn't about feeling or releasing or even understanding. It's about presence. It's about learning to be fully here, right now, with whatever is happening in your body. And when you master this next principle, something extraordinary happens. You stop trying to escape your experience and start healing from the inside of it. Emma was dying. Not literally, but that's how her chronic pain felt after 3 years of constant suffering. Fibromyalgia had stolen her life. She couldn't work, couldn't sleep, couldn't even hug her children without wincing. She'd tried everything. Specialists, medications, alternative treatments. Nothing worked. She was ready to give up. Then, something extraordinary happened during what she thought would be her last therapy session. Her counselor asked her to do something that sounded ridiculous. Instead of trying to escape the pain, I want you to breathe directly into it. Emma almost walked out. Are you insane? I've been trying to get away from this pain for 3 years, and you want me to breathe into it? But she was desperate. So she tried it. She placed her hands on the area that hurt most, her lower back, and took one conscious breath into the pain. Then another. Then another. Something impossible happened. The pain was still there, but something about her relationship with it shifted. For the first time in 3 years, she wasn't fighting it. She was with it. It was still painful, she told me later, but the suffering, that desperate, panicked resistance to the pain, that dissolved. And when the suffering dissolved, the pain became manageable. This is the third Zen principle, and it's the most counterintuitive. The cure isn't in escaping this moment. It's in arriving completely in this moment. The Buddha discovered something profound 2,500 years ago. Suffering doesn't come from pain itself. It comes from our resistance to what's happening right now. Think about this carefully. When you have a headache, how much of your suffering comes from the actual physical sensation, and how much comes from your thoughts about the headache. This shouldn't be happening. When will this end? What if it gets worse? I can't handle this. This is ruining my day. The headache is just sensation. But the story you tell yourself about the headache, that's where suffering lives. In Zen, we call this adding suffering to pain. The pain is what's actually happening. The suffering is all the mental commentary we pile on top. Here's a simple test you can try right now. Notice any physical discomfort in your body, maybe tension in your neck, tightness in your chest, or just the sensation of sitting. First, resist it. Tense up around it. Tell yourself it shouldn't be there. Notice how this feels. Now try something different. Breathe into that same sensation. Don't try to change it. Just be present with it. Notice the difference. When you resist, the discomfort seems to get bigger, more urgent, more problematic. When you breathe with it, it doesn't necessarily go away, but it loses its power to control your entire experience. This is what Emma discovered. She couldn't make her fibromyalgia disappear, but she could change her relationship with it. And that change transformed everything. The Zen teaching here is beautiful. This moment is the only teacher you need. Not the moment you're trying to get to, not the moment you wish you were in. This moment, exactly as it is. But let me be clear about something. Presence isn't passive resignation. It's not about giving up or accepting that you'll always be in pain. Presence is actually the most intelligent response to any challenge. When you're fully present with what's happening, you can see it clearly. You can respond rather than react. You can make wise choices instead of desperate ones. Think about it this way. If you're driving and hit ice, what's the best strategy? Fighting the skid usually makes it worse. But if you stay calm, breathe, and work with the car's momentum, you can often regain control. Presence works the same way with physical symptoms. When you stop fighting what's happening and start breathing with it, you often discover options you couldn't see before. Robert learned this during a panic attack that changed his life. He'd suffered from anxiety for years, but this particular attack was different. He was in a crowded subway car when his heart started racing, his chest tightened, and that familiar wave of terror washed over him. Normally, he would try to escape, get off at the next stop, distract himself with his phone, or take medication. But this time, something made him try a different approach. He placed his hand on his chest and whispered to himself, "Okay, anxiety, you're here. I'm not going anywhere. Let's breathe together." Instead of running from the sensations, he breathed into them. Instead of fighting his racing heart, he acknowledged it. Instead of fearing the fear, he made space for it. The panic attack didn't magically disappear, but something profound happened. It peaked and then naturally began to subside. For the first time, Robert experienced the complete cycle of anxiety without trying to interrupt it. "I realized that panic attacks have a beginning, middle, and end," he said. "When I stopped fighting them, they could complete their natural cycle and dissolve." This is the medicine of presence. It doesn't necessarily eliminate discomfort, but it eliminates the extra suffering we create by resisting discomfort. The Buddha called this the second arrow. The first arrow is what life throws at you: illness, loss, pain, difficulty. The second arrow is what you throw at yourself: resistance, judgment, fear, despair. You can't always avoid the first arrow, but you can absolutely refuse to shoot the second one. Here's a practice that can transform your relationship with any difficult experience. When something uncomfortable arises, physical pain, emotional distress, difficult thoughts, try this 3-step process. First, pause. Take one conscious breath. This interrupts your automatic resistance and creates space for awareness. Second, locate. Where do you feel this in your body? Not the story about it, but the actual physical sensations. Third, breathe with it. Send your breath directly to that area. You're not trying to fix it or change it. You're simply keeping it company. This isn't about being a passive victim of your circumstances. This is about becoming so present with what's happening that you can respond from wisdom rather than react from fear. Think of presence like becoming the sky instead of the weather. The sky doesn't resist storms. It provides space for them to move through. Clouds come and go, rain falls and stops, wind blows and settles. But the sky remains vast and undisturbed. When you learn to be present like the sky, your thoughts and feelings and physical sensations can arise and pass away without destabilizing your core peace. Emma's fibromyalgia didn't disappear overnight, but her relationship with it transformed completely. She learned to have pain without having suffering. She discovered that she could live a full, meaningful life, even with physical limitations. I stopped waiting for the pain to go away before I could be happy, she said. I learned to be happy in the middle of whatever was happening. Robert's anxiety attacks became less frequent and less intense, not because he fought them harder, but because he stopped adding his resistance to their natural energy. But here's what surprised both of them. As they became more present with their challenges, other areas of their lives began to heal too. Their relationships improved. Their sleep got better. They felt more grateful, more peaceful, more alive. This is the ripple effect of presence. When you stop spending all your energy resisting what's happening, that energy becomes available for actually living your life. Most people spend their entire lives mentally time traveling, replaying the past, rehearsing the future, anywhere but here. But healing only happens here. Joy only exists here. Love only flows here. The present moment isn't where you go to escape your problems. It's where you go to meet them with such complete awareness that they transform from enemies into teachers. And speaking of transformation, this brings us to one of the most beautiful teachings in all of Buddhism. Because there's something happening in your life right now that you've probably been taught to fear. But what if I told you it's actually your greatest opportunity for wisdom? What if aging itself isn't about declining and diminishing, but about ripening into something more beautiful than you've ever imagined possible? Margaret was 73 when she discovered something that completely shattered everything she believed about getting older. She'd been dreading her upcoming birthday, mourning her lost youth, feeling invisible in a world that worships 20-somethings. Her energy was lower, her joints creaked, and she caught herself saying, "I'm too old for this," at least 5 times a day. Then her granddaughter asked her something that changed everything. "Grandma, why do you always apologize for being old? You're the wisest person I know." That night, Margaret sat quietly and asked herself a question she'd never considered. What if aging isn't about losing who I am, but about becoming more who I've always been? The answer that came surprised her. What if I'm not declining? What if I'm concentrating? This is the 4th Zen principle, and it's going to revolutionize how you think about every birthday for the rest of your life. Aging isn't decay. It's distillation into your essence. The Buddha taught something profound about impermanence. He said everything changes, including our bodies. But he also taught that within change lies the seed of liberation. When you stop fighting the natural flow of life, you discover that aging can be the most spiritually rich time of your entire existence. Think about a master craftsman. A 25-year-old carpenter might have strength and speed, but a 65-year-old master carpenter has something infinitely more valuable: wisdom earned through decades of practice. They know which wood to choose, how to work with the grain, which mistakes to avoid. The young carpenter can build a house. The master can build a home. This is what happens to human beings when we understand aging correctly. We're not just getting older, we're getting more skillful at being human. But our culture has brainwashed us into believing that youth equals value. We chase it, inject it, filter it. We've forgotten that in most wisdom traditions, elders are revered, not despite their age, but because of it. Let me tell you about James, because his story shows exactly how this shift in perspective can literally heal your body. James was 68, recently retired, and falling into depression. He felt useless, irrelevant, like his best years were behind him. His back hurt constantly, he was gaining weight, and he'd lost interest in everything he used to enjoy. His doctor was concerned. His family was worried. James was ready to just fade away. Then something unexpected happened. His neighbor's teenage grandson was struggling with math and asked James for help. James had been an engineer for 40 years, so he agreed. As James sat with this frustrated teenager, something awakened in him. Here was someone who needed exactly what James had to offer. Not youth, not energy, but patience, wisdom, and the deep understanding that only comes from having solved thousands of problems over decades. Teaching him wasn't work, James told me. It was medicine, for both of us. James started tutoring other kids. Then, he began mentoring young engineers at his old company. Within 6 months, his depression lifted. His back pain decreased. He lost weight not because he was dieting, but because he had a reason to take care of himself again. "I realized I wasn't past my prime," he said. "I was in my prime. Just a different kind of prime." This is the Zen understanding of aging. Every stage of life has its own gifts, its own purpose, its own unique beauty. Youth has passion and energy. Middle age has ambition and building power. But later life has something irreplaceable: perspective. You've survived heartbreak and discovered you're stronger than you thought. You've made mistakes and learned you can forgive yourself. You've lost people you love and found that love doesn't die with the body. You've watched enough cycles of joy and sorrow to understand that everything passes, but some things endure. These aren't consolation prizes for getting older. These are treasures that only time can give you. But here's what most people miss. The physical challenges of aging aren't separate from these gifts. They're part of how you develop them. When your body moves more slowly, you have time to notice things you missed when you were rushing. When your energy is more limited, you become selective about what deserves your attention. When you can't do everything you used to do, you discover what really matters. The Buddha had a beautiful teaching about this. He compared human development to fruit ripening. Young fruit is firm and perfect looking, but often sour or flavorless. As fruit ripens, it may soften, develop spots, lose its glossy appearance. But it becomes sweet, complex, nourishing. What looks like deterioration is actually transformation into something more valuable. Think about the people in your life who radiate a kind of peaceful wisdom. I bet they're not the youngest people you know. There's something about having lived, having faced life's challenges, having survived loss and disappointment that creates a depth of character that can't be faked or rushed. Margaret discovered this when she stopped apologizing for her age and started appreciating it. She realized that her slower pace allowed her to be fully present with her grandchildren in ways she never could when she was busy building her career. Her reduced social energy meant she chose her relationships more carefully, investing in deep connections rather than surface friendships. "I used to try to be impressive," she said. "Now I try to be real. And being real, I've discovered, is much more attractive than being young." But let me address the elephant in the room. Yes, aging involves loss. Your body changes. Your energy shifts. People you love die. These are real challenges, and I'm not suggesting you should pretend they don't hurt. The Zen approach isn't denial. It's reframing. Instead of asking, "What am I losing?" you learn to ask, "What am I becoming?" Instead of fighting every sign of aging, you start working with your changing body as a partner in this stage of your journey. Here's a practice that can transform your relationship with aging. Every morning when you wake up, instead of cataloging what hurts or feels different, try this. Place your hand on your heart and say, "Thank you for another day of life in this body." Not because everything is perfect, but because you're still here to experience imperfection. And that's actually miraculous. Then ask yourself, how can I honor this body today? How can I use the wisdom I've gained to serve something larger than my own comfort? This shift from self-pity to service is the key to thriving at any age. When Margaret started volunteering at a literacy center, teaching adults to read, she forgot all about her creaky joints. She was too busy using her gifts. When James began mentoring, his chronic pain took a back seat to his sense of purpose. This isn't positive thinking. This is recognizing that your value doesn't diminish with age. It concentrates. Like essential oil distilled from countless flowers, your essence becomes more potent, more refined, more purely itself as you age. The superficial aspects of personality fall away, revealing the core of who you truly are. The need to impress others fades, replaced by the freedom to express your authentic self. you develop what might be called authentic boldness. The courage to speak your truth, wear what makes you comfortable, spend time on what matters to you. But here's the most beautiful part of this transformation. As you make peace with your own aging, you become medicine for others who are struggling with the same fears. Your example gives younger people permission to age gracefully when their time comes. Your wisdom offers perspective to those lost in temporary dramas. Your presence provides stability in a world obsessed with constant change. This is the ultimate purpose of aging in the Buddhist understanding: to become an elder in the truest sense. Not just someone who has lived long, but someone who has lived wisely and can offer that wisdom to others. Which brings us to our final principle, and this one might be the most important of all. Because there's something that can literally add years to your life and life to your years. Something that makes your cells regenerate more efficiently, your immune system stronger, your heart healthier. It's not a supplement or a treatment. It's not exercise or diet, though both are important. It's something much more fundamental. Knowing why you want to keep living. Having a reason to wake up tomorrow that's bigger than your own comfort. And that's exactly what we're going to explore next. Helen was dying. Not from cancer or heart disease, but from something doctors couldn't diagnose: complete loss of will to live. At 67, recently widowed, she'd slipped into such deep depression that she barely got out of bed. She'd stopped eating properly, stopped caring for herself, stopped seeing friends. Her family was terrified they were going to lose her. "What's the point?" she kept saying. "My best years are behind me. I'm just taking up space." Her daughter, desperate to help, practically dragged her to volunteer at the local library's literacy program. "Just try it once, Mom. Please." Helen went reluctantly, expecting to hate it. She was assigned to work with Maria, a 45-year-old woman who'd never learned to read and was struggling to help her own children with homework. Something extraordinary happened during that first session. As Helen watched Maria sound out her first complete sentence, something awakened inside her. For the first time in months, Helen forgot about her own pain. She was completely absorbed in someone else's triumph. When Maria read that whole paragraph by herself, Helen told me later, "I felt more alive than I had in years. I remembered why I was here." Within 6 months, Helen was a different person. Not because her grief had disappeared. She still missed her husband terribly. But she had something powerful enough to pull her back into life. Purpose. Her depression lifted. Her energy returned. Even her chronic arthritis improved. Her doctor was amazed by the transformation. This is the fifth and final principle, and it's the most powerful healing force on earth. People don't die from illness. They die from hopelessness. They don't heal because their bodies give out. They heal because they remember why they want their bodies to keep going. The Buddha taught something called right livelihood, not just about your job, but about aligning your actions with your deepest values. When what you do serves something larger than your own comfort, when your days have meaning beyond personal pleasure, something profound happens in your biology. Your cells literally respond differently. Your immune system strengthens. Your heart becomes more resilient. your nervous system shifts from survival mode to thriving mode. This isn't spiritual fantasy. This is measurable science. Studies show that people with a strong sense of purpose live longer, have lower rates of depression, better cognitive function, and more robust immune systems. But here's what most people get wrong about purpose. They think it has to be grand, public, or impressive. They think purpose means starting a foundation, writing a bestseller, or changing the world in obvious ways. The truth is much simpler and more beautiful. Let me tell you about Frank, because his story shows that the smallest purposes can have the biggest impact. Frank was 72, living alone, feeling completely invisible. His children were busy with their own lives. His friends were moving away or passing away. He felt like a burden to everyone. Then one morning, he noticed that the birds in his yard seemed hungry. On impulse, he put out some seeds. The next day, more birds came. Then more. Frank started researching what different birds needed. He learned their feeding schedules, their seasonal patterns. He became the unofficial bird sanctuary of his neighborhood. Children started walking by with their parents, stopping to watch Mr. Frank's birds. Parents would ask him questions. Kids would bring him drawings of the birds they'd seen. "I realized I wasn't just feeding birds," Frank said. "I was creating moments of wonder for families. I was teaching children to notice nature. I was bringing a little peace to people's busy days." Frank's purpose wasn't saving the world. It was serving life in the way that felt most natural to him. And that service literally gave him life. His depression vanished. His posture straightened. His eyes sparkled when he talked about his birds. He'd found his reason to wake up every morning. This is the Zen understanding of purpose. It's not about what you accomplish. It's about what you contribute. It's not about being seen, but about truly seeing others. It's not about leaving a legacy that will be remembered, but about living in a way that leaves people feeling more loved, more hopeful, more connected to life. Purpose in Buddhism is about alignment. When what you do flows from who you are at your deepest level, when your actions arise from your genuine nature rather than from expectations or obligations. This alignment creates what the ancient texts call dharmic energy, life force that comes from living in harmony with your true self and serving the web of life you're part of. Think about the last time you felt truly useful, not just busy, but genuinely helpful to someone. Remember how your body felt in that moment. The aliveness, the energy, the sense of being exactly where you belonged. That's what purpose feels like in your cells. Not like burden, but like coming home. Here's something that might surprise you. Your purpose doesn't have to be something new. It might be something you've been doing all along but never recognized as sacred. Maybe you're the person people call when they need someone to listen. Maybe you have a gift for making people laugh when they're stressed. Maybe you create beauty through cooking, gardening, arranging your home. Maybe you're simply a peaceful presence in chaotic spaces. The Buddhist teaching is profound. Every act done with love becomes a spiritual practice. Every moment of genuine service becomes medicine for both giver and receiver. But here's the secret that Helen and Frank discovered. when you're serving something larger than yourself, you stop being preoccupied with your own pain. Not because you're avoiding it, but because you're participating in something more interesting than your problems. Your headaches become less important when you're helping someone learn to read. Your joint pain takes a back seat when you're creating wonder for children. Your loneliness dissolves when you're genuinely connecting with others. This isn't distraction. This is perspective. This is remembering that you're not just a separate individual struggling alone, but part of the magnificent web of life, and you have something unique to contribute to that web. Your purpose might be as simple as listening deeply to one person who feels unheard, sharing a skill you've mastered with someone learning, creating beauty in your small corner of the world, being a source of encouragement for someone who's struggling, offering your presence to someone who feels alone. The key is to start where you are, with what you have, for whoever is in front of you. Purpose isn't something you find out there. It's something you remember in here, in your heart, in your values, in the gifts you've been given through all your years of living. And here's the most beautiful part. As you align with your purpose, your body receives a clear message. You're needed here. You matter. There's still important work for you to do. When your body gets that message, something miraculous happens. It stops focusing on decline and starts focusing on service. It shifts from conservation mode to contribution mode. Helen didn't just help Maria learn to read. She helped dozens of adults discover the power of literacy. She became known as the grandmother who never gave up on anyone. Frank didn't just feed birds. He created a neighborhood gathering place, a source of natural beauty, a teaching ground for children to connect with nature. Their bodies responded to their sense of purpose with renewed vitality because they had something worth living for. This is the ultimate medicine. Knowing that your presence on this earth serves something larger than your own comfort. Knowing that you have gifts that the world needs. Knowing that every day you're here is another opportunity to add light to someone's life. Purpose doesn't guarantee that you'll never get sick or that aging will be easy. But it guarantees that whatever challenges arise, you'll face them as someone who matters, someone with work still to do, someone whose life has meaning beyond their own experience. And that, more than any medicine, more than any treatment, is what makes the difference between existing and truly living. So, here we are, at the end of our journey together. But really, this is just the beginning. You now know the 5 principles that can transform your relationship with healing forever. Your body speaks a language of wisdom, not malfunction. Your emotions are teachers, not enemies. This present moment contains all the medicine you need. Aging is spiritual ripening, not decay. And purpose is the ultimate life force. But here's what matters most. These aren't just concepts to understand. They're invitations to live differently. Tonight, when you go to bed, try placing your hand on your heart. Take 3 breaths and whisper, "Thank you for carrying me through another day. What do you need me to know?" Listen, not with your thinking mind, but with your body's ancient wisdom. You are not broken. You are not falling apart. You are not too old, too tired, or too late. You are a conscious being having a temporary human experience, and every sensation, every emotion, every moment of discomfort is your body's way of guiding you toward greater wholeness. The conversation with your body starts now, and it might just be the most healing conversation of your life. If this resonated with you, let me know in the comments. And remember, you are medicine walking around in human form. Welcome home to yourself.